Today on the Tim Marner podcast show, we've got Daniel Astarita.
Astarita, perfect.
Fucking love that name, mate. The reason you're here is my friend Ryan Standish messaged me and said, look, you need to get my mate Danny on the podcast. I have absolutely no clue what you do.
That's fine.
Right?
That's fine.
What do you do?
So I part own with a series of investors, but I'm a managing director of two businesses, Kesslers London and Proportion London. They are design and manufacturing businesses of retail furniture, retail space, activations, pop-up shops, mannequins in London, servicing all of the UK, Northern Europe.
Fucking hell,
some
mate.
Incredible brands, Charlotte Tilbury, L'Oreal, Sainsbury's, Asda, do internals, externals, retail design. So that's how I know Ryan, because he's obviously in the print game, so we've got some of the same customers.
Why has he asked you to come on? Why has he said you need to get Danny on? I love this.
Probably because I asked him. Me and Ryan speak quite often, and I think he's such a great guy. And we mostly have a one-dimensional conversation about work, and we sort of tear the industry apart and tear it down and build it up again, congratulate each other on successes and failures. For some reason it came up as, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do something like that. He's like, I know Tim really well. He'd probably have you on. I'm like, brilliant. And then I listened to his show, and I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. Because that's not the Ryan I know. Right? The Ryan I know is this, print this and product that.
Yeah.
He's like, I want him as my life coach. I want him as a mentor.
Yeah.
He's so interesting and so deep to listen to.
Agreed, mate.
So it made me so nervous. And then something else happened that made me even more nervous. I was speaking to my ops director, who's my work ballast, which she's the opposite of me in every way possible. She said, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, I'm going up to do the podcast thing I told you. She went, yeah, but I didn't think you'd do it. I went, why? She went, pulled a face. It's not really your medium, is it? I went, all I've got in life is talking. Right? I'm effectively a sales guy who's become an MD by pure luck rather than anything else. If I can't talk to people, I am fucked, right? Literally am, because... And she said, no, it's not your medium. You kind of talk yourself into circles. I'm like... So all the drive up here, it's 4 hours, I'm like, I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I'm going to embarrass myself. So I'm really relying on you to make sure I don't do that. Keep me on task, right? So that's why we're here, because Ryan basically done me a favour.
What is your background? Where have you come from then? Have you started this being the MD of a business? Where did that come from? Did you ever want to do that in the first place? What was your...
Do you know what? I don't even know what I want to do now, is the honest truth. Like I listen to several of your other guests, and they've all got a really great story to tell, and a lot of them have found themselves. And mine feels a bit more like luck or unluck, a bit more. I've kind of fallen into it. I love the industry. I never really had designs on being an MD. What happened was I worked for a business after university because I was working in the factory during university. I'm a failed sportsman. I've basically tried every single sport and failed at them all, and found my way into an industry, packing boxes after university, during university for a bit of pocket money. Took a job as a project manager, terrible project manager, really, really bad. Found my way into sales. Instead of sacking me, they gave me a go at selling, and kind of was reasonably good at it. So I've always been able to talk to people and sell things, although my ops director doesn't think so. Worked way through 3 businesses to become a sales director in a business that we went in at 12 million with a brief to grow it to 30, which we did over 3 years. We took the business from 12 to 30 million, and from a top line sales story, it was a hugely successful sales story. But we weren't making any money. So at that time, private equity decided that it wasn't for them anymore. They were going to close the doors. My MD had left the business 3 months before under sort of shroud, really. So I was the last statutory director in the business. So I then had to make... Private equity walked away. I was there. I made 180 people redundant. 5th worst day of my life. Worst working day of my life.
How do you do something like that? No.
Tears in your eyes. It was the 14th.
No experience in doing that?
Never. 14th of December. So pre-Christmas.
Brutal.
I never would wish it on anybody. It's absolutely horrible. You've got people screaming at you, people shouting, people crying, all the emotions, and you kind of there taking it going, I don't really know what to say. So that all happened.
Every single person you talk to?
Yeah, so we've done it in a group, to everybody at the same time, and then we tried to speak to everybody individually afterwards.
Christ, that's like indirect trauma, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it was awful. My wife was 7 months pregnant at the time, and I was like, these people have been really let down. These people were, some of them on minimum wage, factory workers that have been there 30 years in some examples. It definitely isn't their fault. It's decisions that have been made at the top table that had led them here. So the business closed down. The business had been around for 125 years, and for 123 of them, it had made money and made good money. Administrators came in, and they had absolutely no desire to do anything other than collect out the money, and that was it really. So I set about creating a business plan for taking some of that 30 million into a new business. Worked all over Christmas. Put something together, took it out to the market, sent it to anybody I could think of. It was basically a business plan that took the best bits of the old business. So it took the manufacturing, It didn't take the outsourced business, which was the bit that was losing money. It took the factory people back into work, and it basically started Kesslers London, which, making retail furniture for brands. Spoke to our customers and said, we're going to try and do this, guys. Will you stay with us? Will you put some faith in us? And almost without design, they all kind of said yes. They all said, we'll give you a go. We'll start off small. We'll see how you go, because you've done such a good job for a long time.
They're believing in you.
Well, I think me to a degree, but I think believing in the vision as well. And the vision, I put it down on paper, and it's really easy to create something that looks sexy on paper, but actually the execution of the vision has always been about the people that came back day one.
What is a vision to you, Dan? What's
to take the 30 million of the old business, which was turnover's vanity, to take that back down to a level that we could understand, that we could get back to our knitting. We were a manufacturing business. Our culture was a manufacturer's, not a procurement business, not an outsourcing business, not a doing work in Germany in a market that we don't understand, with tax laws that we don't understand. Get back to what we understand, which is about UK manufacturing in East London. And being more responsible, being a responsible customer, being a responsible supplier, being a responsible employer, because I watched other people do it really badly, treat staff really badly, sometimes through design, but sometimes just through sort of complacency. So we set about the plan was to make money. We're not communist. It was to create a business that had a sensible level of turnover, that was a good platform for all of our stakeholders, but made some money. We put that out to everybody because we needed to buy it. We needed to buy it off the administrator to do this. And I, a kid that was due in a month's time. I had a 1-year-old. So I've got two that are 14 months apart. Wow. Don't really have chunky sums.
No experience in this either.
No experience.
You just believed in this vision.
Just watched people make mistakes and just thought there's different ways of doing it.
Superb, mate.
But didn't have the cash to do it myself, so I went out to market and found some investors who also believed in the plan.
Never approached the investors before?
No, literally, I sent it to 100 people, was the count. If I found you if you were connected with me on LinkedIn, you got a message. If you're a private equity company, you got a message. I sent it to anybody that I could have access to. And over Christmas, we met with people Boxing Day. We met with about 20 people between the 14th of December and the 16th of January, which was when we completed the deal with a group of investors who believed in the plan, which is 20 months now, and we're doing all right. We posted our first year results, so they're good, and then we go again this year.
Let me talk to you about sales, Danny, and what is sales? I struggle with it a little bit. I talked to Standish about it, and actually, when I actually think about it, I actually be quite a good salesman, but like I've got such a negative connotation with someone who's a salesman, if you know what I mean. What is a salesman, and how to be a good salesman?
I think it's absolutely changed, and I think it's industry dependent. But my favourite film is Wolf of Wall Street. It's hilarious, it's brilliant, but that's not sales. For me, that's not sales anymore. Sales is essentially taking people on a journey, and we work with 12 businesses. So I'm not really selling to them every single day. We're building a relationship. Yeah. So we're sitting in this room, and you've got this really cool branding. You're selling right now. I've walked in here and I've gone, this is a really cool building. You've got some really cool people here. yesterday I spoke to my team about we need a new website. Your front of house person spoke to me and said, we do websites, let's have a chat. You're selling without knowing you're selling. You can sell through so many different ways. Right. Your marketing, your branding, the way that you communicate to people. Ultimately, it's really cliche, but people do buy people.
Yeah.
I want to work with people that I want to work with. And so if my customers want to work with me, they'll work with me because if they trust me. We're selling a product as well. So if my product's good, they'll buy it. And then it's about being a bit of a chameleon. It's about adapting to who you're in. If you're in a boardroom with a big executive at a big blue chip company, which happens to us on occasions, it's about being in a shirt and tie, and it's about being professional and about being really slick with your numbers. But if you're in a beauty brand who you're selling because you're taking your customers out for lunch and you're having a nice time and you're talking about design and aesthetics, that's also selling. So it's about adapting to the situation that you're in for me.
How do you if you've not got that within you, how do you learn something like that?
I think it's hard to learn. I think there's different. You can deploy different salespeople into different industries. In my space, so there's people that would always be able to sell into beauty brands, and there's people that would always be able to sell into retail because the sales is slightly different. I think the real skill is in selling, and where Ryan is good is having this sort of ability to adapt to the situation and being able to talk to people on different levels. But where Ryan is really good is he's very genuine.
Yeah.
There's no hairs or graces. There's no. Yeah. He adapts. But he doesn't adapt to a point where he's not himself.
Right, now we talked about this before with him about like putting like different masks on the I forgot the Japanese philosophy, like 3 masks about business, friends and family, and then the mask you put on yourself.
Yeah.
I feel that, people change and put this mask on there, but they forget about that mask there and they kind of putting it on that's totally not them, and they're putting a false facade on.
Absolutely, that mask can fall off so easily. And if that mask falls off, you people lose confidence, they lose trust because everything else you tell them is not worth the paper it's written on.
Yeah.
So you can adapt and you can have subtle changes in your personality and behaviours or even dress sense but you can't hide who you are and you can't hide who your business is, and your business should be a reflection of you, I think, and the people in it should be a reflection of you. So we have a core set of values that we really stick rigidly to, and it's about respect. It's about how we treat people. So I don't care if you're the cleaner or you're the investors. You're getting the same treatment. You're getting the same attitude from me. You're getting the same challenges or pushback, because otherwise you go home and you're not true to yourself, and then you're not true to yourself at work. You're not true to yourself at home. But keeping the masks separate and entwined is the real challenge as well. So
it's the real challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got to be, you can't completely separate from work when you go home. You can't. It's
I do like the chameleon analogy of you basically all you do. You're still the chameleon. You're just changing the colours to the environment. Yeah, so that was quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You're always a chameleon.
Yeah, and I think having people around you is having other chameleons, other people around you to call you out as well on your I was going to swear.
Chameleon-like tendencies.
Yeah, exactly. Like my, although I didn't take too kindly to it, my ops director called me out and said, "You talk too much," or So having that.
I respect that, mate.
Yeah, I think you have to have those people around you. Like my wife's absolutely that person in my personal life. She'll call bullshit 10 times a day if she thinks I'm going into that work sales pattern on her. Doesn't wash.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, Charlotte, I don't think you've met Charlotte. She put a post out. I didn't know she was putting it out. It was a Halloween costume, but like I was in the Halloween costume that, this is the Tim Marner. It had a dog and the vape and the what's it. Okay. And then I had somebody message me and just say how amazing that culture you set up, that the person that you work with can actually take the piss out of you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's
absolutely.
just it's so important that.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's the ultimate sign of respect, to be honest, is that they're comfortable enough to call you out and to have a joke and have a laugh and if you're being an idiot, call you an idiot. We have a rule in my senior management team group, which is a group of 6 of us. So I'm the boss, but there's 6 of us in this senior management team, and 2 hours a week we'll meet and do our management meetings. Job titles do not matter in that meeting. I don't care if I'm the boss. You call me an idiot if I'm an idiot. Out in front of people, we have a bit more of a hierarchy, and
there's a certain respect.
Yeah, because you need it. Because otherwise, culturally, you need to have especially in a factory, you've got health and safety, all of the various things that go working with heavy machinery. In SMT, job titles off the table, and everyone's got an opinion on every facet of the business. So whether you work in sales or procurement or production, you can have an opinion on what other people are doing in their roles, because none of us know everything. You know, you asked me the question about being an MD. I'd done it because there was a gap and I took a plan and someone had to do it and I stepped up. That doesn't make me a good MD. It just means I spotted an opportunity. You know, I haven't been on an MD training course. I haven't been training to do it for 2 years. So what I know is 10% of what I should know. So hopefully with an SMT and a management team that they can boost that 10% to 90%, and then you can seek the balance from outside influences and stuff. But
what's been your most challenging bit of this sort of process going through it, Dan?
So the redundancies was the worst bit for me by far and away. It's the 5th worst day of my life, worst professional day of my life, and I don't ever want to go back to that again. So nothing else really compares to that day, because everything else for me is an opportunity. Because when we started it, it was almost like, is it going to work? We weren't really sure if it was going to work, and then it started to work, and it was okay. So everything else felt like a bit of a bonus after that day, because that was the ultimate low. I guess the challenge, the ongoing challenge, is the balance between home life and work life.
Yeah.
Because I could be consumed by work, but and I think work would probably benefit from that in the short term. In the long term, it absolutely wouldn't, because I would be a very bad dad, husband, friend, and all the other things that go with it. So I try really, really hard to leave work on time, to get home and do bath and bed with my kids before they go to bed, read them a story. My wife's got a hectic job. She's a head teacher in a special needs school. So sometimes we'll both go back to work after the kids are asleep for an hour and tidy up a few emails. But that 2 hours after work before kids' bed is really important to me. And that balance is really, really important. That's hard, but it's important.
You said that was number 5, your redundancy.
Yeah.
What was number 1?
So number 5 is redundancy. Number 1 is a joint first. I'm going to say my mum was my stepmum, but in my mind I have 2 mums, and my mum died, and my best friend died, and they are joint.
How long ago was that?
My mum died when I was 24, and my best friend died when I was 32, and they were the 2 worst days in my life. And then just below that is the IVF journey, and losing a baby having a miscarriage during IVF. That was absolutely horrendous and awful as well. IVF is one of the worst experiences of my life, ongoing experiences. Amazing end result, but anybody going through that, anybody that's going through an IVF journey right now, absolute sympathy to it. It's the hardest experience I've ever been through.
Why is that?
I think because
I've not got a clue, mate.
So me and my wife tried for children for 3 years before. It wasn't working. Went through IVF. It took 5 rounds of IVF.
How much does something like that cost?
Total cost for us was £75,000.
Wow.
Which we didn't have. It come through credit cards and borrowing money from family and friends and everything like that. And I think that's why one of the reasons it's hard. The financial pressure on that is
on
really
top of
hard.
It, yeah.
The emotion is incredibly powerful. You know, I think. Because you're never completely in agreement as to what you do. You know, do you go again? Do you stop and have a year off? For us, we went 4 times and it failed. We lost the baby on the 4th time, and I didn't want to go for the 5th time. I was adamant I wasn't doing it, and it was my wife who convinced me. And I said to her, if we do this and it doesn't work, and you push me to go again, we will break. It will be the end of us. And I love my wife to infinity and back. But it was, you know, we'd spent 5 years doing this. We were missing out on so much, holidays, because of the money, you know, missing out on holidays and life experiences in our early 30s. And I'm like, this is some of the best years of our lives that we're kind of almost wasting. Constant arguments, constant emotion. I was like, I won't do it again. We did it on the 5th time. And it was 2 days before COVID lockdown. And if it got 2 days later, they wouldn't have done it. It would have closed all the clinics. And it worked. Absolute miracle. It was the last one we had. We never would have done it again, or we would have broken up. And it worked. And now I've got a 3-year-old this month.
Ain't it mad that that's worked?
I mean,
the 5th time.
The maths of it are absolutely staggering. But the journey to get there.
You feel like, how do you feel about universe, something looking out for you? In that moment, are you thinking?
So, as a general rule, I'm not really a believer in that. I'm an absolute. I'm an atheist. I believe that we're here. We get one shot of life, and you take your chance, and you should live every moment of it. And there is no great master plan for any of us. It's all luck or unluck. But I look at that and I go, the mass of that are just staggering. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is something out there. I'd like to think it's, if there's anything, it's karma. Maybe I deserved it because we try and be good people in life. We try and do all the right things. But yeah, I mean, and then 5 months later, so my boy took 5 years. 5 months later, my daughter took probably 6.5 minutes. We never thought it could happen naturally. It hadn't happened naturally for 7 years previously. We'd had a big row. I remember it vividly. We were walking through Chelmsford Town Centre. She said, I'm going to pop into Primark. I don't go into Primark because I've got a bit of a thing about fast fashion and sustainability. So I waited in the coffee shop. Yeah. She was bloody ages. And she came out with so many bags. And I was like, this was obviously on the back of IVF, back of having, spending all that money, owing people money, going, what have you spent all this money on? You joined a gym yesterday. That's 100 quid a month. We've got no money. What are you spending money for? Big row in Chelmsford Town Centre. Got back in the car after about an hour of arguing. Didn't talk to each other all the way home. Got up. I went downstairs. She went upstairs. I thought, I've been a real dick here. She's done a baby. She's joined a gym. She wants to get her body back and she deserves that. And she's gone to Primark. It's not like she's gone to Vivian Westwood. She's gone to Primark. I've been a real dick here. So I went upstairs, gave her a big sorry and cuddle, and then we ended up doing what you do. First time since my boy had been born. 2 days later, we go on holiday, we're drinking and she's eating soft cheese and all the food she shouldn't. Come back from the holiday, she came down the stairs and said, I'm pregnant. I'm like, we've only done it once? Like, how can that happen? Like, I went white. I was like, we've got to sell the house, we've got to sell the cars, we won't cope financially. I went into absolute anxiety mode. And I really regret that actually, because I never got that experience to go, oh my God, that's amazing. Like you see on the TV or you see other stories about all this excitement. I went into panic mode and the practical side of me kicked in. I was like, sell the cars, sell the house, we need to move. This is the worst thing that could happen. We can't afford to live. Until my daughter was born, 9 months later, you don't care about it anymore.
Give a fuck, mate. Does it? Don't really matter.
If I'm destitute, I don't care because I've got this new precious thing, and now I've kind of got this perfect nuclear family, boy and a girl, and I never really thought I would change the way I changed in terms of being a dad.
What do you mean?
All through my 20s, weren't bothered for kids at all. Living the life that you'd like. You living in your 20s, living in London, living the life, travelling, holidays, running up bills. Early 30s, eventually got married, called a wedding off before that, but eventually got married. And once she wanted to have kids, I was like, all right, we can have kids if you want, fine. Once it happens, it's the best thing in the world. And it's so cliche and you hear people talk about it all the time, but I never thought it would happen. I never thought I'd be any good at it either. I thought I'd be a terrible dad. And I think I'm doing all right. I think so. They're well-adjusted kids, they're happy, and we make a real effort with them. And and it is, I enjoy it a lot.
Where's the holistic side of you come, the psychology kind of side of you within businesses in your life? Because you've got quite a mindfulness about you, about like the psychology of things, and you sitting downstairs, your wife's upstairs, and you thought, oh wait a minute, Primark, she's not sitting with Westwood, she's, you know what I mean? That in itself is mindfulness, mate, and almost a...
It is. I mean, I'm a very reactive person, so the reaction was the argument and me getting annoyed that we'd spent 300 quid in Primark or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I do need that time afterwards, post-event, to reflect and go, I made mistakes. Because
a lot of people don't do that, Dan. A lot of people just carry that shit on.
They do. I mean,
you caught yourself.
I think if my wife's listened to this, she'll say that she says sorry more than I say sorry, and she's probably better at it than me. And it was probably the odd occasion, because I am quite. That was probably a quick transverse from being annoyed to being, but that was because of the baby and because but generally in arguments, she's a much better person than me. She will always be the one that comes and says, we need to sort this out, we need to say sorry. I am quite reactive and an emotional guy, and I'm a bit like that in business as well, actually, and that's kind of why my SMT are absolutely the opposite of that. I surround myself with ballast, if you like, people to say you're getting too emotional, you're fixating on the wrong things, and actually.
But even you saying that, knowing that you need those people around you.
Yeah, that part of it I do recognise in myself.
Yeah.
I absolutely do recognise my
He's
pitfalls.
very spiritual in sense.
Yeah, and I guess spirituality. Terrible pronunciation is really interesting because it's so varied. It can come in so many different ways. Like you can, we're sat here with Buddha, and you could be that type of spiritual, or you can just be a bit more reflective and self-critical and things like that, and that can all come under the same guise for me.
Something I've been really thinking about recently is like. Gaz, you've not met Gaz, he's my head of creative. Like, he's probably one of the most spiritual people you ever did, but he hates spirituality.
Really?
Yeah, and it just the way he approaches things and branding jobs and the psychology of it, how it connects with people, that in itself is just spirituality for me. But it's just not, it doesn't need a label on it, does it?
No, it doesn't, because I think if you try and label it, I think people can become a bit more reticent to it.
Yeah.
I'm off to India on Sunday.
Oh, amazing.
And I'm going to India with one person I know reasonably well and two people I've never met before, purely because it's India. And I'm going for that cultural experience and that sort of absolute, flooding of the senses of different things that I've never experienced. And I feel really guilty because I'm going away from my wife and two kids for
What
a
does
week.
she say about that?
What does she say? She says, you better buy me a good present. She says that she recognises that I'm better for it. So I do it very rarely, but I do nights out once a month or twice a month because with a group of friends, and I am a better person for it because it is a release, and it is, whether it's out go-karting or whether it's out drinking or clubbing or whatever it is, or just sitting in the got a pool room at home playing pool with a group of mates. I need that camaraderie, I need that banter, I need that
connection.
Exactly. And my wife can give me 99% of that, but you need that for me, that 1% needs to come from somewhere else. So she recognises that in me, I'm a better person when I have these outside experiences, and I will miss them incredibly, and I'll be on the phone to them 3 times a day, FaceTime, anything like that. And it's changed actually. It's because I've been really busy at work over the last 3 weeks, so I've been really vacant on the WhatsApp group. And it started off as my mate's 40th, and it's really up and coming. We're going to Goa. It's kind of new party club scene, and it's kind of gone down to this. Everyone's sort of talking about starting a detox on Monday because it's got vegetarian food, and we've got a yoga teacher in the hotel that does yoga classes. And part of me is like, yeah, I want to do that, and the other part of me is like, I need to get back on this WhatsApp group because that's not what I'm going for. It's 80p a bottle of premium lager. We should be going out and having an amazing time and tearing it up and coming back with a hangover. So it's going to be a really interesting week.
Can we, are you all right talking about your mum a little bit?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Can you talk to me about the effect that had on you? And how did you pass, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so I have I have a mum who is alive and is amazing and is incredible, and she's my birth mum. My mum and dad split up when I was 1, and then my dad got remarried when I was 3. So when we say mum, I said technically stepmum, but I've always thought I grew up with 2 mums. And the mum that we're talking about was always the connection between me and my dad. So I reckon my dad he works incredibly hard. He's relatively successful, and some of the traits in business I probably pick up from him. Works for big charities, and he's done a lot of things internationally. I don't think he would look at his role as a dad when I was younger and go, I was the most present father. Coming to watch football or watching me run, seeing him once a week. I don't think he would look at that. And I think my mum that passed was that sort of, she was the buffer for us. She brought us together. She made him do things with me when he was really busy. And she was a mum, but she was just cool. She was the only person that I knew at that age that had been to university. She was what made me want to go to university. She was very open when I was a bit older about that. She experimented with drugs and things like that. We had these really honest conversations. And I remember going to the hospital, and she told me she was going to die, and we had a year, and we had planned all this amazing stuff to do in a year. We were going to go do trips. We were going to go to Wimbledon, and we didn't get it. We didn't get that year. She passed 12 weeks later.
Wow.
Yeah. So pancreatic cancer. It took hold of her really quickly. I was there when she passed. So we spent 12 weeks looking after her in the hospice every day, slept there. Didn't go to my university graduation because I wanted to be with her. You know, she was just cool. We would play PlayStation together. My dad would never do that. My mum, who I love, and we can talk about her separately, but she wouldn't never do that. She had 5 kids. It was a really cool relationship. She never tried to be a mum. I called her a mum. She always would say she was Jill. But she just brought something into my life that I didn't have from anywhere else. And tying me and my dad together to try and make us as close as was going to be possible was really important as well. Hyper intelligent, so intelligent, had a degree and she was an MD of a business and that was inspirational. I looked at her as a really powerful woman.
Is there a part of you become an MD because she was an MD? Did you have that on your mind when you became the MD that your mum was a MD?
I guess I had in my mind that. And I suppose whether it's the MD thing or anything in life, that she was very up for a challenge. So she broke down a lot of barriers. So in her industry, she was one of the first women to become a director, one of the first women to become. So she wasn't scared of a challenge, of any challenges. So whether it was becoming an MD because of her, it's probably more deeper than that. It was not shying away from the challenge of becoming an MD because she wouldn't have shied away from the challenge of being an MD.
Inspiration, that mate.
Yeah, she really was. She was a wonderful person. We went on a lot of holidays together, and she was a really good person. Worked for charities, done a lot for charities, a lot for children. Never had children of her own. I never really had that conversation whether she wanted them or not, or whether she was just happy with me. I kind of always hoped she was just happy with me. But I don't know, because further later on in life, I obviously went through that journey of not being able to have kids. So I never really asked whether they wanted any other kids and she couldn't have them or not. But like to think I filled a bit of a hole anyway. So yeah, she was.
What's your relationship like with death now? Now, sort of your mum passing and your best friend passing. What is your sort of relationship like with loss and death and that kind of thing? I know it's a bit deep. Sorry, Dan.
No, it's fine.
Questions just fucking fly out my head.
I think so. I said to you, I was an atheist, and I have a relatively pragmatic approach to life. People live, people die. I've had nans that have died and grandmas that have died, and I'm all right with that. You hope for the best possible outcome at the end, and you hope it's safe, and you hope it's peaceful, and everyone has an amazing experience. I guess with my mum and my best friend, it was about the timing. They were too young. My best friend was 34, and my mum was 50.
How did your best friend die? You don't mind me?
He had a brain tumour.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, and he was genuinely the funniest, best person. He worked in a factory. He had no hairs or graces. He's probably one of the reasons I got into this industry, because during university, I came back after breaking an ankle playing semi-professional football in Australia, and Dad said, "You're not sitting around, go and work in this factory until you go back to university," which I did. And I went in there as this university boy into a factory in Essex with all these people doing, simple jobs, simple tasks, and I was going, I'm really glad this isn't me forever. Having been there for 2 weeks, I didn't want to leave because the people were amazing, the salt of the earth people, and he was the alpha male in that business. He was hilarious. Like at break times, everyone just galvanised towards him and sit and watch. And he was married to the prettiest girl in the factory, and he was so cool in this sort of really insular environment. And I just pulled towards him. I just went, oh, please be my friend. I just want to be around him. And 10 years later, we just carried on being friends for 10 years. Best man at his wedding, and and he passed.
I just wondered how your relationship with that. Are you grateful of life? Are you, I've got everything, or does it hit you traumatically where you just like?
It makes me question what I said earlier about karma, because I said to you maybe karma was the reason that I got my boy in the end.
Yeah.
And I go, then the transverse that is, if karma's a thing, that should never have happened, because there was that isn't fair. There was no, one of the.
What's your little boy's name?
My boy.
Yeah.
Bowden.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I've got Bowden and I've got Hallie. Yeah. So I look at that and I go, we talk about being spiritual and being, the universe has got a plan. And I go, if it has got a plan, I don't fucking like that plan, because what they did to that and that family, he's got a little boy called Tyler. He was 3 at the time. And I kind of go, that's not a good plan then. And even if the universe has got a plan, then the universe at that moment in time do one because I'm not interested in the university's plan because whatever it did over there is not fair. Yeah. So I guess I kind of go back and forth with it. Anger is probably with the emotion that, and then massive sympathy for his wife and his young boy. You know, I look at his young boy was the same age as my young boy is now, and I go, what my wife would be going through if that was me, or what I'd be going through if it was my wife. I just couldn't bear it. I couldn't live with myself. You know, so what's my approach to it? It goes back and forth, but on that one, it was definitely anger.
And as it's kind of gone on now, and it's you've had time to sort of like process it and stuff like that. What is it now? Are you kind of in the moment, kind of fucking this thing could just end at any minute?
Yeah,
I am. Live every life with
absolutely. You know, and that's one of the reasons that India is happening, because I think you work really hard, and you know, but why are you working hard? Well, you're working hard to provide the best opportunities for yourself, you know, your family, your friends. And to do that, you need to seize the moment sometimes. You know, if you go to work 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, and you do that 52 weeks a year, well, what are you doing it for? Yeah, we've got a house and we've got a car, but I'm not bettering myself. And I know. So the time with the kids, the time for myself to go and do things, you need to seize the moment. I've got the words "take a chance" tattooed on my back. My wife hates it, but I've got them on my back. And I kind of try and take chances, you know, whether it's traveling, whether it's different friendships, you know, different life experiences.
When did you get that tattooed?
I got that tattooed on my stag do in Vegas, which would be 9 years ago now. It was one of many reasons that we ended up calling the wedding off.
Oh, okay.
So it's my wife now. We called a wedding off at an amazing wedding planning in Italy, all family booked to go out to Italy. Probably 50 people. 6 weeks before we called a wedding off.
Why?
I think we probably should have done it 18 weeks before. I think we were young and silly and immature. We were in love. I don't think we ever questioned that we were in love with each other. But I think in terms of what we wanted post-marriage was always going to be different. I think she wanted a family and I wanted to travel, and we wanted to do different things. And it started to become a wedge between us. And what ended up happening is we started living these sort of separate lives, just going head first towards this wedding in Italy, kind of just going, yeah, it'll be all right on the night. And it really wasn't going to be. You know, she was the brave. I probably disconnected first, but she was the brave one. She said, we're not getting married. She's a stubborn northern girl, and when she's made her mind up, she's made her mind up. And I was like, well, of course we are. No, we're not getting married. She called it, and it was the best thing. It was. I said to you, it was the fourth worst day, and having to ring my mum up was the worst bit of it. I was thinking, the wedding. My mum's so scared of flying. She was going to get on a plane to come to Italy for my wedding. That wedding you're coming to, we've just called it off. And she was in tears. I was in tears, and we had 20 months apart, living very different lives. But we found our way back to each other. Probably because we had some shared finance stuff that was still going on, and we had to have an ongoing dialogue, otherwise we probably wouldn't have spoken again. Found our way back together, and then we got re-engaged really quickly, and it just felt right. We felt like different people. We felt like we'd matured a lot, like we'd been on a journey away from each other that neither of us really enjoyed ourselves in, that we were doing things that was, you know, she'd got into a new relationship, and I was out there living the life, going to America, spending money that I didn't have, like running up bills and debt and doing silly things. And we found our way back together, and we compromised a lot. We're a relationship that some relationships you just look at and they work. You know they're going to work forever and a day. I think where we are is we're in a relationship where we know we have to work really hard at our relationship, because we know we love each other. It's never a question, but we know we're also very different. And we've both got to compromise quite a lot to keep this working forever, because we want it to work forever. We love each other. We still fancy each other. We've got the kids. It works when it works. When it works, it's the best relationship. All our friends would look at it from the outside and go, it's the best relationship of all of us. But we're conscious that we have to keep working at our relationship really hardly, you know, compromising, spending time together, doing things together, because, you know, she's a head teacher. I'm an MD. It could be really easy to slip into that absent relationship. We don't really talk. You're sort of ships in the night. So we're really conscious of that, and we try really hard that we make an effort. We find time for each other. We make sure we've got holidays booked always. You know, sometimes they're a year in advance, but we've got them in the diary because we know that we.
So you basically just communication. all
It
the
has
time.
to be, yeah. And if we slip, she's very good at calling us saying we're slipping, and book a meal, book a weekend away, or Dan, just try a bit harder. You've been a bit too much on the work. Hold my hand when we go out, put your arm around me, give me a kiss. And she's always right, annoyingly, but she's always right.
Yeah. And how do you sort of like take that into is there things that you learn with your wife and your family life that you implement into your business?
Yeah, I think
because the communication's important, isn't it?
it is very important. So so one of the values that we have at work is communication. We will stand up in front of you every single month, 97 people, and we will tell you exactly where the business is. Because 45 of those people were in the old business that lost their jobs with no communication.
Yeah.
So we will stand up and we will tell you what our revenue was, where we are as a business, what our profit is, and then 4 times a year we close the factory for half a day, which costs us a lot of money, right? We close the factory and we do something for all the staff, whether it's playing rounders in the park or going on a treasure hunt or a scavenger hunt. We have a team day where we go and do something. Yeah. And to me and you and to the management team, it's costing us money closing a factory for half a day. But for people that are paid, close to minimum wage or working in a factory, going and doing a scavenger hunt is really exciting to them. So that pulls the communication, but it also pulls the values around treating people how you want to be treated and making sure everyone's got a development plan. So everyone comes to work, and if they want to achieve the next level in their career, whether it's team leader or assembly leader or doing a qualification, first aid or driver forklift, we'll work with you to get that plan. And I suppose that goes back to my relationship around continuing to work on it, to continue to work on the people, but also compromise. The compromise is that a lot of these things cost a lot of money, and that comes straight off your bottom line. And I'm not a communist. I'm a free market. I want to make profit for my stakeholders, but short-term profit's easy to make. It's about doing it again and again. So we talked about the business. We talked about it's been successful year 1. Who cares? It needs to be successful for year 3, year 4, year 5. Creating a business year 1 is relatively easy. There's a hype, there's a bounce. You need to do it over and over and over again to call yourself successful. So, joking in a bar with my mates, I'll joke and say, yeah, I'm an incredible MD. I'm very conscious that I'm not. I'm very conscious that we need to continue to learn, continue to be better.
Yeah. What is the compromise bit when it comes into working with the staff and the people almost that you got under from a boss? What's an example of compromise that you've had to do where?
Pace. I said to you, I'm an emotional guy, and that comes out as to I want everything now. So I want this new IT system in, and I want it running next week. I want that individual on that training course. I want that new bit of plant or machinery in the factory because it's the best bit of kit.
Like that, mate.
I want everything now.
Sometimes.
So impatient.
Yeah.
And the reality is sometimes I can't have what I want. Like sometimes this IT system is going to take six months to come in because that's the right way of doing it for business continuity, or it's the right way of doing it because of the resource that we've got or the money we've got to spend, or that bit of machines in Germany and you can't have it for 3 months and I have to wait. So pace is the biggest thing for me.
How do you stop yourself from like getting? Do you catch yourself at moment that there's some days are better than others. You're not much sleep and what's it? Fucking things just fly out of my mouth. I'm thinking, shit.
Catching myself, definitely. I've done a really the best thing that ever happened to me in the old business was private equity. But they recognised that. So I was in a boardroom as a sales director. I kind of had to be in the boardroom because I was a sales director. But I'm surrounded by people in their 60s in suits, and there's me in wearing what I'm wearing as a sales director. And I think they wanted me more polished. They wanted me looking like they looked because they wanted to sell the business and they wanted me to front the business from a sales perspective. And actually, they were probably a bit scared about what I would say. So they sent me on a business mentoring course. 6 weeks. So it was over 6 weeks, 12 sessions with somebody a bit like Ryan, actually, who you talk to, and they talk to you really reflectively, and they got me thinking about perception. How am I being perceived by the people in the boardroom? So whatever I think of them is irrelevant, but what is the perception that I want? And we got down to the bare bones that I'm being perceived as an emotional, reactive person. And I know that's in some situations it's good because it shows passion, it shows energy, but it doesn't show calculated thinking. It doesn't show being methodical, things like that. And I wouldn't lie and say I've completely changed, but I am very much more self-aware. So I do it much more. I do it less, And I think it's actually got more of effect because my SMT know that when I'm doing it because I thought about it, and now I'm still going to be emotional. I'm still going to be paced because actually I know it can happen.
But it's got all that substance behind it.
Picking your battles, pick 1 out of 4 that you're gonna get emotional about, not 4 out of 4, because otherwise it's just Danny's just having a rant.
It goes against ballooning.
Exactly. Yeah. So pace is probably the big thing for me.
Yeah, it's powerful, that, isn't it? It's a real powerful thing, not being reactive to situations.
It really is. I think.
And what tools are these sort of like do you do to do that? Do you? I mean, someone were talking to me the other day about like just doing that with your finger, just to sort of center yourself again if you are feeling that, just to snap yourself out of it. Have you got any tools like that you use? Yeah,
so I've got probably 2. One of them is to walk. So we have a meeting room, and I very rarely, so they're all sat down in the meeting room. I very rarely sit down because actually I feel that if I'm sat down, I'm getting more, I can feel myself getting more frustrated by what's being said. I can feel myself getting more hot under the collar. So I stand up and I'll stretch my legs and I'll walk around the boardroom and I'll kind of look out the window and just take that 10 seconds to reflect on what I'm about to say and think about whether it's worth it. Do I really care if it's 2 days late? Do I really care? Is that the battle to pick? Yes, it is. Then I'll go in. The other one is I have this kind of inner monologue. I don't know if that's the right word to say.
Yeah, talking to yourself.
Yeah, I do. I do a little bit. I kind of, when I drive an hour and a half into work and an hour and a half home, and a lot of that time's on the phone to the wife talking about our days. But when I'm not on the phone, it's almost replaying conversations and how I would have handled it differently, and almost in my head talking them out again, talking about my answers, how they would be different.
That's spirituality, that, mate.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess it is.
I just want to get this message out to people that they see you are a spiritual person. Just don't get put off by these woo-woo Wendy's and Crystal Kens, because it's that's not spirituality. No. It's talking to yourself and just having a word with yourself and asking yourself, why was I feeling like that, and how can I handle it better next time, and getting a balance and an holistic approach. It's just like
I guess it is spirituality. I guess you're right, and it's quite powerful.
It's powerful, that, mate. Really powerful.
Yeah. If I'm going
to have that in a dialogue.
Yeah, and sometimes it's proactive as well as reactive. So sometimes I'll do it if I'm going into a situation where I know that I need to behave or be perceived in a certain way. So whether I'm going in to meet my investors or whether I'm going into be told off by a customer because we've done something wrong, and my customer tells 90% of the time when we do something wrong, it's because the customer done something wrong first, and we've tried to. And my instant reaction to that would be, "You fucked up here," but actually it's not going to do me any good because they're the customer. So I go through that conversation that you're going to have with me as the customer and how I'm going to react to it. So you can call me what you want, and I'm still going to sit there and I'm still going to take it because I've practiced that conversation. And it is powerful, and actually for me it works. Yeah, for me.
Who put the values in place in your business? Who put those in place, and how do you?
So I wrote them, and then
How did you know you needed to do that? Because of what you heard before or something, or?
Well, no, because we sat down when I sat down and decided to recreate the business. A big thing about it was looking at what the old business had done wrong. And a lot of that came down to how communication and treating people and various things. And the upshot of that is, well, okay, we know what's bad, so how do we do that better? So they almost wrote themselves, because part of the business plan was taking what was bad and making them better. And it was almost sat there going, well, these are, if we stick to our knitting, these are our values, this is what we want to be. So why would we not turn them into values and then tell everyone in the business?
Tell everybody.
Yeah. So why keep it to myself and go, this is what I want to be? If I tell everybody, then I'm accountable for that. Yeah. And then I've got them up on the wall, and I can be pulled back to them every day. You're not doing this or you're not doing that. You're right, I'm not. And then, because if you do it on a daily basis, you never get that far off the path. Whereas if you're doing it once a year at a yearly meeting, or you're asking your stakeholders what they think of you once a year, it could be too late. But if they're up on the wall for everyone to see, and they go, well, you said you're gonna do this, and I didn't think you did that today. I go, you know what, you're right, I didn't. You can get back on track really quickly.
It's all right having values, but like if your brand values don't match your brand behaviours.
Exactly.
And that's the trick, innit? Yeah. It's making sure your actions, because talk's just talking it.
It
You're not
really
walking
is.
it.
It's so easy to talk the talk. Best salespeople in the world can talk the talk.
Yeah.
But then it's
He's so powerful for businesses, that mate. He's setting a set of brand values, but also setting a set of brand behaviours to attach to those values as well.
And you need to keep refreshing your memory on, and you might need to update them. Sometimes they go out of date, and sometimes they need to change. But the core principle is about respect, communication, treating people how you want to be treated, honesty. You make a mistake, you make a mistake. We all make mistakes, right? So if you put the wrong thing in the box, or whether you put the wrong zero in the P&L, own it, and we fix it together. That's one of the values, is honesty and integrity, and I think that's really important as well, because I think you have a culture of fear.
Not throwing anybody under the bus. Come on.
Air it. We're here to help each other.
I've seen so many businesses do witch hunters and they try to blame somebody. I'm just like, come on, we're a fucking team, man.
Absolutely. If you want to blame someone, if you've got someone in your business that's not performing and constantly, there's a conversation to be had. There's an education, there's performance management, and ultimately, if you've got somebody in your business that's not performing, there's an exit, right? We're not communists. We have a business but you don't have a culture of fear. People make genuine mistakes. Genuine mistakes are fine. Attitude's much more important.
Oh yeah.
If you come into work and you want to do a good job and you want to get down and add value to the business, and you're a critical thinker, there's a role for you. And if you make a mistake, we fix it, because I make all mistakes every day. Yeah. I really do. So you asked me who wrote the values. I wrote the values. They would have had 54 spelling mistakes in them and grammar mistakes. So I give them out, and then people make them better. I make so many mistakes, but I know my intentions are good, and I'm always trying to do the right thing. I'm always trying to add value, and if I surround the business with good people in the same mindset, we'll be a super good business. If you've got negativity, if you've got poor culture, they're gonna, it takes one person with a negative attitude to infect 10, and then you're done.
Yeah, that's what I'm always saying to people. People come in, they're looking for a logo, they're looking for a website. I'm just like, oh my fucking God. And I'm like, before you do that, you need to set out your brand values, your brand vision, your brand mission, your brand purpose. Make sure all those are aligned before you get the visual side of it. Yeah. Because identity is not what you look like, it's who you are inside. Absolutely. And that's how you get the best cultural fit for people that work with you. I
walked in here today and I was 20 minutes early. I hate being late, but I was 20 minutes early, and so I sat out there, and every single person who I met walked out for the first time, said hello, how are you?
Amazing, mate.
It was lovely. These people are like, you're surrounded by people that clearly want to be here. Yeah. I sat out there talking to Betty for 20 minutes, great conversation, lovely conversation, and it actually made me feel so much better about coming in here. It loosened me up, and I really was nervous. And you could tell just within 20 minutes that everyone here wants to be here. And that's got to be a testimony to the leadership team here.
Yeah, appreciate it, mate, appreciate it. I still don't know what I'm doing. But I know how to look after people and make them feel valued, and Sean and Charlotte working on little projects at the minute for something. I'm really excited for them to work on it and kind of get that done. It's just like I don't like the word boss, and we're all in this together, and we're all working towards. It's not a fucking Navy ship where someone's getting bummed in a barrel. It's kind of a pirate ship where we're all working together, and we have a share of the bounty when we kind of get it.
I love that. Yeah. I'll steal that, by the way.
You can have it, mate. It's not really mine. It's anybody's, but it is that, isn't it? It's like, I believe, Standish has always said it to me about titles, and, I do believe in not having titles, but there's still got to be a hierarchy. Yeah. For the what's of it, like if you're captain on a ship and whatever, but we're all in this together, man. Let's let's chart our own path, man. And
captain can eat in the mess hall, absolutely, because some of the best ideas can come from anywhere in the business. And if you get arrogant enough to think that captain tag is it means anything other than you take the flak for everyone else's mistake, then you're in the wrong game. You shouldn't be a leader, because leadership is about setting the task, setting the tone, setting the culture, and then letting people flourish. If you're having to micromanage every little thing, and you're having to oversee and apply pressure to people because you don't think they're doing a good job, you're not doing a good job.
Yeah, It's not about being the best. It's just about doing your best. I'm not after we're the best. Fuck it. It's just. I think it's just nonsense, that bestness.
Surround yourself with good people.
Yeah.
And you will achieve amazing things.
I want Gaz to be better than me. I want Shah to be better than me.
Makes your life easier, right?
Yeah, fucking right.
Makes your life easier.
Why would I want to kind of like stifle that fucking growth? I just see too many businesses doing it. Like, I know why Standish has got the podcast. You just think exactly like we do, and it's refreshing, mate. And I love getting this out to other small businesses because it's really, really important. They get it wrong, and they think they should have an authoritarian approach and telling people what to do. But it's like, nah, you don't want to do that.
No, I mean, like, the ones I've listened to, you've had some really cool guests on though. Like the ones I've listened to, they seem to get it. Right, whether they're in small businesses, the stories they've got to tell.
Yeah.
Was it Seru?
Yeah, Seru.
That I listened to that one on the way up last night. Such a cool story. Such a cool story. Like, loved it. Done worked nothing to do with food. Spent life working in retail. Had a passion for something, and then went and done it. Started off, wasn't sure it was going. And I loved that story. It's really inspirational. Yeah. And I think you're doing a great job getting it out there to people. Like, it's really interesting, and you've definitely got an habit.
What's next for you in your business then? What's next for Dan? What's next for the business? What have you got coming up?
Well, we're going to go into year 3, and year 3 for us was about growth. So year 1 was about, do we have a business? Can we actually pay our wages? And can we got anything that anyone wants? Year 2, which is this year, was about a move. So we're in 130,000 square foot of manufacturing space in Stratford, East London, and our rent was coming to an end. Our rental period was coming to an end, and the rent was going to go from 800,000 to 2.6 million a year.
Nice.
And it's not a space for our business. It was too big anyway. Boohoo and Amazon are looking at that space. That's the type of space it was for a warehouse in London. So we knew we had to move this year. So we identified a space. We done a huge piece of work about finding the right size, where we would keep all of our staff, because where was it travelable versus the economics. So being in London is expensive. I could be in Essex, or I could go further north, and I could save myself hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, but I'd lose 10%, 20%, 30% of the staff, all of the staff. So we've done a huge amount of work on what the right thing to do was this year. Completed the move in July, so that it's a factory, so it's got various complexities around stuff that I think floor loading and gas and electric stuff that I never thought I'd have to think about. We've done that in July, so it's up and running. And yesterday we sat in budgeting meetings with my SMT for 2024, and we created the budget for next year, and it's about growth. We want to push the business on. We're ambitious for the business, for all stakeholders. So over the last 2 years, we've kept the tap off. We haven't really done any marketing. We haven't really done any proactive selling. We've just worked with the core customers that put their faith in us day one. Yeah. Whereas next year, we've earned our stripes. We've paid our dues. The old business left some scars in the industry that we had to right. I feel like we've done that now, so we can try and push the business on. Going back to the values though, one of the values is sustainable growth. So I don't want £1 million order from someone as a one-hit wonder.
Just to sell your soul out.
Exactly
and
that. And I want to chase turnover. I've chased turnover in the old business from 12 to 30. I want sustainable growth that we can do well. We want to do it.
People chase turnover too much, don't we?
It's irrelevant. It's such a fake number. Yeah. You could do. We were doing 30, losing 3. I did 14 and made 1.4 last year. And you kind of go, well, why was I breaking my back doing 30? It's irrelevant. Even gross margin is you want to concentrate on margin, but even margins, you can massage margin. Yeah. It's about that bottom right number. That's the only thing that matters. Yeah. And how you got there and the journey you got there, and being, are you a business that's acting in its interest for all stakeholders? So you can make that bottom right number really sexy, but are you paying your staff a fair wage? So we started off paying our staff, some of the staff minimum wage, and we said, actually, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be at the bottom end of the barrel. So we pay all of our staff 15% above minimum wage as the base rate. Various things like that, because you want to be profitable, and I absolutely do. But for me, the values and the story and the journey and all of the nice stuff make you more profitable if you do it well.
Agreed.
Rather than just tone that number down.
Agreed, mate. Yeah. What's the one thing that you've learned from the redundancy bit? I can't even empathise with that. I can't even put myself in your situation. What have you learned from that? What was the biggest lesson?
I think it's probably a combination of stuff we've spoken about. Is how do we get there? Well, we got there because we were chasing revenue. We were chasing turnover to try and get this business to a number, because that number was the pinnacle. Because other people wanted to sell the business on a turnover number and make a load of money for themselves. And the other thing is they were all surprised. So 180 people came into the meeting. They weren't expecting it, because we didn't talk to them about how the business was doing. So we were living and breathing it every day, looking at not paying the bills, and suppliers calling up and saying, well, where's my money? I'm going to go out of business. But they were oblivious to that.
Yeah.
So we learned two things. One is around, again, you don't chase that number at the top right, you chase the bottom right number, you chase your profitability. We learned to be responsible. So we speak to our suppliers, we tell them where we are, we tell them what we want from them, and we talk to our staff every month, religiously every month, about what the business has done, what the story is, what our recruitment plans look like. If we're going to have a weak month, we're going to have a poor month, and we're not going to do the ice creams on a Friday, we're going to have to be a bit tighter this month, because actually this project's moved out 3 months. So we're honest. We had a very good year, we're having a good year this year, but you still have months that are tighter than other months. And when that happens, we tell you. Why has it happened? Well, Marks and Spencer's, wonderful customer, but they're building a store in Leeds, White Rose, where we put one of our projects, and it's gone back a month because they can't get the plumbing in. Okay, that's great, but that means we can't invoice 300 grand. Okay, we have to adapt to that. So we tell our staff that.
Amazing, Dan. Amazing. It's massive, that, mate, the communication. It's one thing that, we just being vulnerable with the staff and just telling them where I'm at as well.
It's a great word. Vulnerable is a great word. I think you have to be that. I think if you try and look like you're determined and you've got all the answers and you're going to absorb all the bullets, people are too clever, they see through it.
Yeah, it's, you come back to what you're saying about you and your wife, and like, if you two are struggling, but you're struggling your own, and the other person doesn't know that you're actually struggling, and I've got a problem with something that you've done, it's just going to blow up at some point, isn't it?
It really is. It really does. Yeah.
And it's like, you've got to keep communicating how you're feeling, and to get through it together.
Yeah, because it is cliche, but it is absolutely a partnership, and the whole reason that you get married or you have partners is to share the pains and share the upside and share the downside together.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point, right? Like, if you're in a marriage or a relation or a long-term relationship, what is the point of that if it isn't to share the absolute pinnacles of life or life's challenges? If you try and compartmentalize and internalize all these day-to-day challenges, you're going to end up resenting each other, because you end up blaming that person. Oh, my life would be easier without you. And actually, I had a really bad day at work today.
Yeah.
And I just want to go home. And even if you tell her why you want to go home and lay on the sofa and watch the sport, I want a quiet night tonight. I don't want to make the dinner. I'm going to order a pizza and watch the football. I want to have a night where I'm just do me. She gets it. She has an incredibly stressful job. I can't comprehend the different. Are we working in completely different space?
Environment that she's in, right?
She works in the public sector with budgets getting cut, and there's me
red tape everywhere.
And so I ring her up and she goes, "How was your day?" And I go, "Yeah, my bit of wood didn't go out on time today. I've had a really bad day. How was your day?" He goes, "Well, I've had a kid that's been abused by his mum and he's been taken into care." And I go, "Yeah, you win. My problems are insignificant to hers, but also out there in the industry." So I guess perspective is also important, right? So when I think about a bad day, it's all relative to my work, but actually
in comparison to whatever else is going on.
Exactly. You've got doctors and nurses and people in hospices and people in care houses doing really, really tough days.
It's another good mindful check, that, isn't it?
It is
another good mindful check, that, to kind of go, does this really matter?
Yeah.
Is this really?
Yeah.
Right. So just before we end this, mate, right? Let me just ask you this question: do you ever look in the mirror and say that you're proud of yourself for what you've accomplished?
I look in the mirror and think I'm getting fatter, greyer, and balder a lot.
Not what you look like, but who you are.
No, I probably don't. I probably rely on other people's validation more than my own validation, and that probably comes from I'm aware as a salesman and in certain circumstances of a faux arrogance, and I call it a faux arrogance. It's a front arrogance. You know, when you work in sales, you've got to have a little bit of a persona. You've got to look like you're always successful. So, but it is absolutely fake. You know, it's a front. So I think I look to the people in my work, people at home, friends, to say, you know, you're doing really well. Rather than me, because I think I've done that in sales, and I've done it, and I've sold a £1 million deal. Well, look at me, how amazing am I? Who really cares? Actually, what I want that validation from others, I think.
But have you not looked at, as in, like, look at the culture you created and the business that you created and the lives that you changed? I'm not talking about sales here or growing the business. It's very difficult, isn't it, to kind of, what is success really?
Yeah, it is. I think...
What is it? And I don't think it's not attached to money for me. I consider myself as successful, but from another point of view, well, you don't earn millions of pounds, you're not a millionaire. I'm just like, but that's not success to me.
No, I don't think I'll ever be a millionaire, no matter, unless I win the lottery, because I think there's, and I'm not disparaging millionaires because there are some amazing ones out there, but the majority of the ones I've met, there's an element of narcissism and there's an element of being a bit of a sociopath. You need to be a...
But is that what you think if you look in the mirror and say you're proud of yourself, that you're being a narcissist?
I guess a little bit.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
I guess a little bit, because we talk about the culture you've created, the business you've created, and I kind of go, well, maybe, but I always use we. I try and always, I often say I, and I always correct myself. It has to be a we.
I do that.
And I say to my staff, if I ever say I don't mean I. It's a slip of the tongue. I always think about we. So I guess I'm really, really proud of the business we created. I'm really, really proud of the culture we created. I'm very much aware that my vision means zero. It was not worth the paper it was written on without 6 people day 1 and now the 97 people day 600. It was a we, and it continues to be a we. And they've gone above and beyond the plan. They've succeeded the wildest expectations, and they've bought into it. So I guess I'm proud of the plan, but I'm really proud of the we that we have all done as a collective rather than I've done, because there's days when I think I've got imposter syndrome. I don't know what I'm doing here. You know, I don't know if I deserve to be an MD. You know, I've been out for lunch. Do MDs go out for lunch?
I've got my own business. I've not got a clue. It's to be honest, it is a testament to my business partner. But again, it comes back to the communication that me and him have had, and like going through that all again. But I do not know I've got my own fucking business, because like I'm just like fucking in my 20s and stuff. I'm like,
yeah, exactly that. And you know, Am I proud? If I look at what we have done, I'm really proud of what we have done as a group of individuals that have come together through some serious adversity, and we've got a business that we are very proud of, and it is doing some seriously good stuff. You know, it's working with some amazing brands that, you know, are at the top of their game and are really trying to push the boundaries of retail, and I'm really proud of that. But it is a we.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate
it.
Your
All
time.
right?
Oh, fucking all right.
You
fucking
sure?
Right.
I feel like I don't know.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Goodbye.
Marner, what, you're branding with the best. Marner, what, you're branding with the best. Marner, what, you're branding with the best. Marner, what, you're branding with the best.